Huh. You know, I'm starting to run out of ideas for how to do the intro for this podcast. Episode 20 with our special guest, Somni Baboulis. I know. Arnold Schwarzenegger burning his hand on a stove. Oh, these brownies, they smell fantastic. Yeah! Oh, I burned my finger. Close enough. Episode 20 of the Performers I Know, coming at you! These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Another fun-filled, wacky episode of the Performers I Know. This is episode number 20. Yes, we are up to four hands now. Isn't that something? Isn't that wild? But yes. This week in studio, very special guest that we have here. They are a very talented performer, and they are here right now live and in living color. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Somni Baboulis. Somni, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing like a big old box of fluffy ducks, as always. Just feeling fun and fancy free. So, ladies and gentlemen, once upon a time, as always, during the COVID dark ages, I came across Somni in my travels. I think it was maybe it might have been on backstage.com. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, I'm
But
pretty sure it was.
yeah, but they gave an audition for one of my shows that wound up on the cutting room floor because of COVID. They and they became quite the utility player. And I'm very happy about that. But Somni, my question to you is what got you into acting and theater and all that good stuff? What got you bitten by the acting bug?
Oh, okay. So, a little bit of context. My favorite story, both Disney movie and book growing up, was Alice in Wonderland. And I had saw that a local theater company near me was doing an Alice in Wonderland play. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's literally my favorite thing ever. I'm gonna audition for that. I did miss the cut for Alice in Wonderland, but I ended up auditioning for their next play, which I think was a spin on Beauty and the Beast. And I got in. I was the Beast in that production, little 8-year-old me playing the Beast. And
Is
yeah,
that who you were? Because it's so funny because I spoke to your mother about this and I was like, "Oh, what part did they play?" And she was like, "You know something? I don't even remember." Oh, well then. Okay.
oh wow, okay.
Hey, thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. No, yeah. I yeah, and so from that point, I just kind of like kept doing things with that production, with that company, and when they shut down like a couple of years later, I went on backstage and Actors Access and got into doing more broad things.
Yes. I think that show is called Beauty is a Beast. I feel like I'm almost sure that's the name of the show that you're talking about.
Probably, yeah. I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
Yes. So, the first major thing that Somni did for me was in 2020 when I did my very ill-fated season preview show, which essentially was a bunch of scenes from the shows that we're going to present on stage for our 2020 season. Everything literally shut down 2 weeks later. Like missed, we just got it under the wire. So everybody scattered to the winds. And I just remember thinking to myself, oh boy, I'm in deep doo doo now. But we persevered, and the first virtual show that we did was my Young Sherlock Holmes caper at Christmas, where you played Master Sherlock Holmes,
You
uh,
bet.
big old no, and you got to act opposite Shannon Ship after all. Aw, isn't that nice? Yeah. But what were your thoughts going into it? Not just the show, this particular show, but in general, just saying to yourself like, "Oh, virtual theater, voiceover work, like this is a new frontier." Like, what were you thinking back then?
So that was, I mean, everyone has watched cartoons when they were a kid, but obviously that was my first introduction to like doing voice acting. Um, I've done some virtual stuff past that for like school and stuff, but I think that was my first introduction to actually doing theater virtually, and I was kind of confused how it would work and how everything would play out with like happening on Zoom versus like other mediums. But yeah, it was certainly a different experience, but I thought it was really interesting and I really liked it.
You know, what really makes me feel very old is listening back to that recording, and all of you, you and Nathan Kasoy and Owen Connors have high squeaky voices, and now Nathan sounds like this, and you kind of sound like this, and Owen's starting to sound like this, and now it's like I am very old now. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that was a long actually it
Four
wasn't even
years 4 years ago.
yeah. It seems like so long ago, but then like thinking about it like counting wise, it's not really that long.
Well, I mean, in terms of the way time flows now that I'm getting older and I'm an old fart, it's a lot quicker now. So the one thing that I love most about Somni is that they jump right into any kind of role that I present to them. And like I said, wonderful utility player. Any kind of role that I give them, they do it fantastically. Um, one of my favorites was of the early ones was Bela Lugosi's Dead, and you got to just play opposite a lovely golf lady, well, girl anyway. Oh my goodness, that now her name escapes me. I'm gonna have to look this up, but yeah. What was it like to kind of get into that? Mostly because you didn't necessarily know who Bela Lugosi was, or the song Bela Lugosi is Dead as well.
Um, I'm trying to remember that one. That was like so long ago. I'd say that's the Dracula one, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, in a way,
Yeah.
that is the Dracula one.
Um, it definitely was a strange title. Because I mean, when we did Sherlock Holmes, like everyone's heard of Sherlock Holmes. I mean, it's Sherlock Holmes, but Bela Lugosi, I was like, that's that's definitely something. And I think we had a Zoom session where we like looked it up and we kind of like researched it a little bit.
Well, it's a song by Bauhaus, and I
Yeah.
showed you guys the clip from the music video, and you were just like, "Oh, that's very weird." Yeah, that's Bauhaus for you. So, but yeah, Somni has done a lot of very important theater work. Amongst the more important ones was a little piece called The Last Boy, which was an off Broadway. Or was it off Broadway? Sometimes it's a little hard for me to remember things.
It was off Broadway and then later in what, 2022, 2020, somewhere around that, it had a one night Broadway special.
So,
So,
technically speaking, Somni is only the second person in the history of this show who has graced a Broadway stage. Where did which theater was it at for the one night?
it was Town Hall.
Oh, okay. So, how did you come about getting into this project? Like, what was the process like going into that?
Um, I got into it same way I got into your stuff backstage. I got an audition request for through backstage for the show. And sorry, and at first it was I'd never seen a play about something so heavy as the Holocaust, especially people in concentration camps during the Holocaust. I was like, wow, that's going to be like a difficult piece to perform, both mentally and emotionally. Like, it definitely, I went into it thinking, like, this is going to be a challenge. And I mean, it certainly was, but not necessarily in a bad way. I'd say the process was very intense and it was very challenging, but the end product and the importance behind it and the message it spreads, especially now, with all the more recent events, it's it's still frighteningly incredibly relevant. And yeah, yeah.
Well, that is the sadly unfortunate thing is that these stories are still relevant today, and it's very important to highlight these things to say like, hey, these kind of things happened, and they could very easily happen again, which is a very unfortunate thing, but it is important to have these kind of stories told because I believe The Last Boy is based on a true story. I feel like the concentration camp survivor that it was based off of. Didn't he visit the cast and like speak to you guys for that show?
Yes, he did. He saw it through Zoom, but his I think it was his grandchildren came to see it in person when we were off Broadway. Um yes, he did. He came and talked to us. It is his story. He is the last boy. His name is Sydney. Um and he that is obviously with a little bit of creative liberty with the specifics of dialogue and stuff, but that is his story. It is based off of his true story about the boys in Vedum and their magazine that they wrote to help them get through the concentration camp, even though all but one, hence the name Last Boy,
Hmm.
only there was only one of them that survived. But yeah,
It was, and I had the privilege of going to see the performance, and I tell you what, it was very powerful, very amazing. The entire cast was fantastic. Um, and you gave a splendid performance, as you always do.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes. But another very interesting piece that you were in, which I'll very serendipitously, this past summer, or was it actually maybe it was the fall, you were in a production of Marvin's Room. And it just so happens you there was a cast member in that show that I was in a show with in Brundage Park. His name is Michael Rocco. I was in Beauty and the Beast with him, and he played Monsieur Dark, and he is fantastic. I'd love to have him as a guest on the show. But he was in Marvin's Room with you, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of those shows where I've heard the title, but I have no idea what the heck is on going on. What is that show about? Give us a little synopsis if you can.
So I mean, really, it's a story about family. Basically, what it is that there are these two sisters, and their mother had died, and their father is very ill. And when their father had a stroke for the first time, one of the sisters moved away while the other one stayed and cared for the father. And so the whole story is the reconnecting of these two sisters as one of them is diagnosed with leukemia. And so the one that moved away has to come back and help with the father who was still hanging on by a thread,
Mm.
and try to like mend this broken relationship. And through the process, the sister who moved away, she has two kids who are troubled people, one obviously more than the other if you've seen the show. And it's also about trying to fix that relationship as well.
And who were you in that show? What was your role?
I played one of the kids. His name is Charlie. And yeah.
Oh, just like you have a brother named Charlie.
Just
Yeah.
like my little brother Charlie.
Yeah, except he's a very happy boy, not trouble at all. Just throwing that out there. In fact, I believe he's playing basketball and doing wrestling now,
Basketball, wrestling, soccer for a little bit,
huh? Oh my,
baseball, you name it, he's done
you
it.
know, it's it. I do want to point this out. So we did Daniel, my brother, and Somni played Austin, the boyfriend of Shannon Ship's character. And in the play, I punched Somni. Well, pretended to punch them anyway. And Somni's brother didn't really like that too much. Got very upset. This poor child. I'm like, no, it's just pretend. I didn't actually hit them. Please, Charlie, don't hate me, Charlie. Oh, he got very engrossed in uh, in that apparently, and I mean, eventually he calmed down, but yeah, that was some very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so you finally got to actually play across. Well, I mean, you did technically play across from Shannon during the scene 2020 preview, but this was the first time you did a full length show with her. What was it like working with Miss Shannon?
Oh, Shannon is so nice. Um, I, she was, I was in like 2020 when COVID hit, obviously everyone kind of hit like a social blockade. And I was struggling a lot with finding people to connect with, especially at my old school. And Shannon was just super nice. She's so talented, first of all, but she was
Well, yes,
su
that's a given.
yes, obviously, but she was super nice to me when I was like struggling to find people like that. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing stuff. And you guys had very awesome chemistry with one another. I mean, you have great chemistry with just about everybody that you get paired with. You did Johnny's Night Out with Brooklyn Norstead, and that was just like, good Lord, I never saw two people more suited for the roles than that particular project. And Brooklyn Norstead, she's another one who is just out of this world talented. And I would love to have her on this show at some point, but she's so busy, which is a good thing because she's getting a lot of stuff is going on in her neck of the woods. And that works out fantastically. Um, Now I'm looking here at there's some pictures up on your mom's Facebook, and I'm seeing people decked out in some very wacky regalia. What did you just wrap up a show recently?
Yeah, I just wrapped up my school's musical. We did something rotten.
Oh, okay, but then what did you do? What? Don't call it a bad show. What's the matter with you?
I was
The joke is it's actually called something bad. Yes, but who were you
oh
with that?
okay. Okay.
There's that joke sailing over somebody's head. Who did you play then?
I was a part of Nick's troupe in the yeah.
Oh, so now my important question is, did they sugarcoat? Don't be a penis. The man is a genius.
Oh no, actually, for that song and for the Black Death, my teacher, my director was giving us diction orders. She was like, make sure you enunciate what's that creeping round your pee pee and your vagina. She was very um firm
Oh,
on making sure all the consonants got out.
well, well then, make sure penis. Okay.
Yes.
Uh, sure thing, Miss Insert last name here because I don't know what her name is. Well, I mean, so I that's one of those things like certain shows where I see junior versions of them, and I can't help but say to myself, like, how would a group of kids, even high schoolers, do that show? Because Andrew Rosenblum, who has been on the show, he did a version of Damn Yankees, the junior version, and his mother told me it was extremely watered down. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm very out of touch with these kind of things. Do you prefer the junior versions, or would you prefer to go smack dab right into the just the regular old versions?
No, I don't really like junior versions. I agree with you. There's a lot of shows that should not have a junior version. Like I saw my friend in a production of Mean Girls Junior, and I was like, how does that show get a junior version? That's not like the whole point of that show was that it's vulgar and it's like that's kind of like the point.
I mean,
So I definitely prefer just straight.
I've seen junior versions of Once Upon a Mattress, and it's like you realize there's a whole subplot where there's somebody who's pregnant, right?
Yeah.
And how do you work around that? Or junior versions of Chicago? Who came up with that idea?
That's
Oh,
awful.
don't worry. They're not dead. They're just they had their feelings hurt. That's all. So I see as we look on the old clock on the wall, we are starting to run a little bit out of time. But Somni, the last question that I have for you, if somebody were to come up to you and say, "Hey, Somni, I want to break into the performing arts, dancing, singing, acting," what would be your piece of advice that you would give them in order to best succeed?
I'd say keep your opportunities open. Like, because I now go to school. I'm a sophomore in the theater academy at BCA, and I went in there with just really doing singing and acting. And but through that school, they've given me dance classes, they've given me screenwriting and playwriting classes, and it's just opened so many possibilities for me of things I didn't even know I was interested in. Costuming, playwriting. I just wrote a 10-minute play for one of my acting assignments and I loved it, and I didn't even know I
Really?
liked doing that. So, yeah.
Interesting. You're gonna have to tell me more about that off camera. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as our outro plays us out, we are going to wrap this up. Sami, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for today. We will catch you on the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.
These are the performers I know, I know. These are the performers I know. These are the performers I know, I know. These are performers I know.